everyone, to this Happy New Year weekend edition of The Truth. I've been talking for some number of weeks about my perception that our United States federal government is rotten to its core. And I steadfastly believe that. Now, I'm not on a mission to bring anybody down or to create any havoc, but just simply to report the truth. My suspicions have been further confirmed this week by an article that appeared in the Times Network. Kuhashi Patel, I hope I pronounced her name correctly. Ms. Patel writes, and this really is shocking to me. It is shocking and it is disturbing. But she writes that Joe Biden's administration has paid Reuters news agency. Reuters is huge. They're worldwide. And they have been respected. But the Biden administration has paid Reuters and 11 other agencies over $300 million targeting Elon Musk in their stories. And that Reuters article received a Pulitzer Prize. Can you imagine this? And I've been telling you for some number of months now that I thought that the media was not fake. It's worse than fake. They are bought and paid for. They are owned. And they're owned by our federal government. We also learned that Michael Taibbi told us that Twitter was paid $3.4 million to censor or cancel people that dared speak out against a COVID vaccine or went against the government's narrative. And Cox Enterprises is said to have contracts with the Defense Department, according to one former Cox shareholder and family member. So we're just starting to scratch the surface and to dig deeper into the fake news media. And we are now learning that they're not fake, they're corrupt. They are on the government's payroll for the administration that is in office or for the deep state. And I lean towards the latter. I suspect that it is the CIA that is actually making these payments. Well, in the case of Twitter, it was the FBI. This is groundbreaking news. This is revolutionary material. This is earth-shattering news that our government is using our tax money, yours and mine, to pay news agencies to deliver the government narrative. It's the Politburo news agencies. One news agency has even been revealed to have received money from China. The more we learn, the more disappointing the news is. The more we learn, the worse we learn that it is. And folks, there's only one way to right this. There's only one way to right this ship. The only way to right the ship is to stop your subscriptions. Stop listening. Stop viewing. Because what they're telling you is propaganda. It is pure propaganda from our federal government. Now, I have read that the CIA has embedded CIA personnel in virtually every department of the federal government. I have read that the CIA has embedded CIA personnel in many newsrooms across America. And you know that Bob Woodward was a naval intelligence officer before he landed at the Washington Post and just happened to be assigned within 6 months, probably the biggest news story of the 20th century, that having been Watergate. And the more we learn, the more we know that Richard Nixon was brought down by the deep state. It was not a two-bit burglary, but it was a burglary where 4 of the 6 members of the team were CIA employees. It's worse than what we believed. And the more we learn, the more disgusting it has become. Ms. Patel writes, meanwhile, another social media user said that Biden announced a new task force to monitor and address censorship of Americans by China. More evidence that China has infected our country. They've floated spy balloons, plural, over our country. We've tracked them. Biden shot one of them down over the Atlantic after it completed the mission. We know that China has police stations in New York, Houston, and Los Angeles, and God only knows where else. We know that there are thousands of military-aged, fit Chinese men living inside the continental United States. And we also know that no one leaves China without permission of the CCP. It is later than we think. Donald Trump, I hope, is aware and is dealing with this. And I actually think he is. You know that Donald Trump this past week has been rumbling about the Panama Canal and the possibility of the United States taking it back. Why do you suppose he would want to do that? Well, I think we've learned now. Just in this last week, we've learned. Because China is operating inside of Panama. China has military guards at the Panama Canal. And the Panama government has exponentially raised the fees for ships to travel through the Panama Canal that we gave them. And it appears that they have now sold out to China. This is overt Chinese aggression, in my view, and it has got to stop. Donald Trump sees it and he knows it, and I think he's telling China, don't even think about moving on Taiwan, because if you do, we're going to take back the Panama Canal and your little party is over. So all of these mass deportations that Trump is promising has got to include these fit military age Chinese men that are embedded in our country, that have come here illegally without following a lawful process. They are among the first that have got to be rounded up and sent home. Then simultaneously, we'll deal with the crazy people, the insane people that Central American countries and South American countries have sent to the United States, and the people that they have gotten rid of out of their prisons that they have sent to the United States. We don't want the problem here. Joe Biden, you take them. And God only knows how much money the Biden crime family has taken. Now, why do you suppose Biden is being rumored to being considering pardons for high people in his administration? It's because Donald Trump is going to go after his political enemies. Wrong again. You see, Biden came in to this presidency on a lie, and he's leaving on a lie. He's talking about Donald Trump going after his political enemies. That is false. That is wrong. That is a lie. Donald Trump's not going after his enemies. He is going after enemies of the state. People who turn their head and look the other way while millions of illegals were crossing our southern border, bringing with them fentanyl. And God only knows what else. Certainly armaments. So it's bad. It's really bad. And then Joe Biden has paid off the media over $300 million in contracts to Reuters and 11 other agencies in the federal government has made payments to news agencies. I've said it, and I'll continue to say it. We've got to burn it all down and build it back. It's the only way I know to do it. And we're not going to, when I say burn it down, don't misconstrue my words. I'm speaking metaphorically. I am saying we have got to surgically remove the cancer that has inflicted our federal government. The people that killed John Kennedy have to be outed. The people that staged a January the 6th completely fake, false narrative around an insurrection that didn't happen have to be outed. The people that have kept the Epstein files under wraps have to be outed. The news agencies who have taken money from our federal government to maintain the company narrative, the company being the federal government narrative, have to be outed. All the people within our government who have failed to fulfill their oath of office and breached the laws of the United States and have worked against our Constitution have to be outed. Now, I don't know whether we're going to be able to try them in a court of law and convict them and sentence them, or whether they will just be outed. I think we absolutely should indict and try these people. They should have to hire lawyers and defend themselves, just as they forced Donald Trump to do for made-up charges. But Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, Fonnie Willis, Jack Smith, lawyer up, baby. It's your turn in the barrel next. And will Joe Biden issue midnight pardons for those people? I suspect and predict that he will, along with Mayorkas, Attorney General Garland, Jim Biden, his brother, the members of the January 6th Commission. Nancy Pelosi appointed them. She'll be on the list along with Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, Adam Schiff, Benny Thompson, and all the other people who have drugged this country through hell by lying and creating fictitious accounts. And we haven't even talked about the 300 people that have rotted away in prison for 3 years as a consequence. And they just say, oh, it's just collateral damage because we've got to stop Trump. They think it's a game. It's not a game. You're playing with our country's future. You're desecrating the Constitution and the laws of this country that you swore an oath to uphold. And I'm sick of it. And the American people are sick of it. And they let you know that they're sick of it on November the 5th, 2024. And we are not going to stop. We have only begun to fight. We are not letting our foot off the pedal. And to all of our listeners, all across the John Fredericks Media Network and the CDM Press, 13 digital platforms across the World Wide Web, and our listeners who watch us on social media each week. Those are small numbers, but they're growing rapidly. By the way, if you listen to us on John Fredericks, or if you listen to us on the CDM, on CD Media Press, please take a moment and go to Getter, Rumble, and YouTube and X. Subscribe to our channels. Like us if you do. Help us grow. We need you. We're depending on you. But we come to you on John Fredericks in Atlanta, Memphis, Nashville, Richmond, Norfolk, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Morgantown, West Virginia, every Saturday from noon to 2. And we're rebroadcast on John Fredericks on Sundays from 1 to 3. Sometimes we may be preempted in your local market for football, but that's the exception, not the rule. So if you get football instead of the truth, you can go get the John Fredericks app for a different city, like Atlanta, for instance. And unless unless they're playing Alabama football, you can listen to us every Saturday from noon to 2. All right. So we've got to fix this. Donald Trump's got to fix it, but he can't do it alone. You and I have got to stand with him. We've got to keep harping about these egregious behaviors to our friends, relatives, fellow parishioners, anybody who will listen. Don't be afraid. You've got to be a warrior. It takes courage. Some people are going to look at you like you're wide-eyed conspiratorialist. Don't let them intimidate you. Now, today we're going to play you some interviews from people that have been kind enough to invite me to come on their program. Jason Burmis, we're going to talk about the Butler and West Palm Beach assassination attempts against Donald Trump. We're also going to talk to Todd Wood today about the same subject. And then John Ritchie is another radio host who was kind to invite me on. And then we're going to have a very good interview. I want you to stay tuned for this one with Michael Lepps. Michael has a charity, and they have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to provide protective gear for police officers across the nation who lack bulletproof vests and similar protective gear. He has done a phenomenal patriotic job of protecting our men and women in blue. But he has special insights, especially about the transgressions at our southern border and the illegal importation of fentanyl, not to mention the abuses of child trafficking and the sexualization of children. It is very hard to listen to. And as you will hear in the interview, I told Michael he, in less than 2 or 3 minutes, led me through the 3 stages of grief as I was initially in denial. Not really, but I can't say that I've focused on child trafficking and the fentanyl issue. We've talked a lot about it, but I haven't gotten deep down in the weeds because, for one thing, it's just so damn painful to look at it. But folks, we have got to be willing to look at it. And we've got to get into the details on it. And then, as I said to Michael, you've given me a tremendous lump in my throat as I think about the abuses against 300,000 missing children. Michael puts the number at 500,000. So we go from denial to grief to anger. And that's where I am right now. I think the worst crime that you can commit is against a defenseless, harmless child. It is an unforgivable act. And folks, it is happening on our watch. And my role is to do the research, get informed guests on that are able to talk about it and to continue to share it with you. So stay tuned to the rest of the program. This is the John Fredericks Radio Network. We also are coming to you on CDM Press on 13 digital platforms around the country. We also come to you on Getter, Rumble, YouTube, and X. We're going to tell you some more of the truth today, and here's our next segment.